Welcome back to our second hour of World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. Now, I promised you more of this interesting prognosis of the economy as seen from retail by Davidowitz, but we're always interested in getting an update from the all-important legal front. If you go back and look at what has happened this summer, the crumbling of Obama began in late July, August with a flare-up of interest in the birth certificate question. And, of course, that goes back to something that happened at the Supreme Court a year ago when Phil Berg of Philadelphia sought emergency injunctive relief before the Democratic National Convention to stop the nomination of somebody who couldn't prove that he was a citizen. So, as always, we're glad to welcome Phil Berg. Thanks for being with us on this last weekend of August, Phil.
It's my pleasure. We're now in our 13th month, about to go into our 14th month on a situation that, unfortunately, we shouldn't have to deal with. I mean, this situation should have been brought up by the national media 2 years ago. It should have been brought up by the candidate himself, Obama. He knows that this is the biggest hoax ever contemplated against the United States of America in our history. And just the fact that he's hiding it shows that he knows he's wrong. He knows that he's a fraud, phony. And I'm not, obviously I'm very strong words here. If he thought there was some question, he should have brought it to the attention 2 years ago to the courts and asked for clarification. Obviously, he knows he's not qualified. And I'm proud to be the leader in this. Just this past week, Philadelphia Weekly, with the hugest weekly in Pennsylvania, declared me the alpha birther, the first of the alpha.
Congratulations.
Now, other things are working on either next week or the following week. I'm not sure. York Magazine is doing a story on this. Their photographer was down yesterday and spent 3 hours taking some photos of me, and I didn't break the camera. So I will be there in that magazine. And then just this morning I received a telephone call from a writer from Philadelphia Magazine. So the story, as a story, it is really getting bigger, and we're starting to get better coverage. For your listeners, I love what occurred several weeks ago. The headline from Huffington Post was, "The only thing worse than birthers," and I don't know if I like it or not, but they're calling us birthers, anyone that's questioning Obama. It said, "The only thing worse than birthers are the non-birthers," which I thought was a great headline because they're realizing that the non-birthers, the people that are sticking up for Obama, stating that he's a natural born, which is a phony, which is a lie, because they know they've never seen documentation, but they're making fools of themselves. Like Chris Matthews waving a piece of paper saying this is his birth certificate. Hey, Chris, no one has seen his birth certificate, so you don't have it. You haven't seen it. Stop waving a piece of paper. You look like a nut when you're doing it. And the word is that there's that there's pressure from the White House not to discuss this topic, and the pressure has been the top executives of the major news stations throughout the country. And think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Where's our free press? This topic should be the #1 story in every newspaper in this country and every radio and TV station, and it's not. And there's people like Webster Tarpley who really deserves credit for keep bringing this topic to the forefront, and the other people. I've been on probably 400 radio shows around the country, and we will hit the mainstream. And I think when we can raise the public attention, that's why the most important thing for the listeners out there to do, in my opinion, is to go to my website, obamacrimes.com. That's OBAMACRIMES.com, because we have the most truthful, honest information out there regarding this topic. We have it maintained for the past year, over a year. And we need everyone to go there and send it to everyone on your address book, and ask them to send it to everyone on their address book. We have a responsibility now to get this topic out. When we can raise the public awareness to 75 million people, we can force the issue to the national media, and we can force Obama out. Remember what happened with Nixon with Watergate. Watergate was a small break-in. What got Nixon was the cover-up. Well, we now have an amazing cover-up going on by Obama. There's word that there's an office in the White House that is directing the operations of anything on the Internet and anything out there to try to negate it. But, the simplest way to prove this was when I filed my first lawsuit last year, August 21st, 2008, I said, prove me wrong. Show me a certified copy of your vault copy of your birth certificate, and I'll go away. A vault copy of a birth certificate includes things like the length of the baby, the weight of the baby, the hospital, the doctor's name, the doctor's signature. None of this has ever been put forth. So I don't know who's kidding who at this point. Obama is a phony. We're not only in a financial crisis, we're in a constitutional crisis because everything he's doing is void or voidable. And as he's decreasing in the polls now, I think we're getting more and more attention because people are saying Obama speaks out of both sides of his mouth, and they're realizing that, which is the most important issue, because this is a constitutional issue, and if he can't come forth with the truth about whether he's natural born, the requirements for the Constitution are very simple. 3, 35 years of age, lived in this country for 14 straight years, and be a natural born citizen. He's not. He knows he's not. He's a phony. Why else has he sealed all his records? We know nothing about him. I'm sure his college records, when they're unsealed, will reveal that he filed for and received foreign aid either from Kenya or from Indonesia. Significant other also is the fact that his name, his legal name, is probably not Barack Hussein Obama. We have records on ObamaCrimes.com which show his school records from Indonesia, which indicates his name as he was adopted. His name is Barry Soetoro, S-O-E-T-O-R-O. Well, it also indicates his nationality Indonesia and his religion Islam. Well, if he hasn't legally changed his name since that time, then he's committed fraud upon fraud by, number one, signing his name in all the jurisdictions across this country to run for president and signing his name, being sworn in under that name. You know, when you adopt a child, anyone that many of your listeners have, the child takes your last name, and that's their legal name unless they legally change it. So unless Obama didn't legally change his name, he's a fraud. Also, the fact is that he lost his citizenship if he was not born when he became adopted in Indonesia. Well, people are saying you can't do it at a young age. Well, yes, you can. The thing is, you can reaffirm your allegiance between the ages of 18 and 23. He could have reaffirmed his allegiance to the United States if he had been national, which I don't believe he was. But there's no indication he did that either. So that's a short synopsis. We have one hearing scheduled for October 26, 2009, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. But we're waiting patiently for a hearing on our sealed case, which has been unsealed, where I have sued Barry Soetoro, stating that he is an illegal alien. Not only is he not eligible to be president, but his term as a United States Senator was a fraud, and he owes back to the government about $1 million. The False Claim Act case, which I filed, which is usually done in Medicaid or Medicare fraud cases. And right now we have a motion for reconsideration alleging that Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, is in conflict of interest. If there was ever a conflict of interest, it is Eric Holder, who was on Obama's campaign committee, number one. Number two, he was on the select committee of 3 people that was selected vice president, which ended up selecting Vice President. And number 3, he's the Attorney General of the United States, which is the highest law enforcement officer, and who communicates and advises the president. So if that's not a conflict, I don't know what. The judge has delayed in scheduling a hearing. I think he doesn't know what to do, but we're waiting for a hearing in the United States District Court in the District of Columbia. How's that for coverage?
Wonderful. So let me just get it straight. October 26th is the court date in Philadelphia.
Correct.
So we want to mark our calendars for October 26th in Philadelphia, Third Circuit Court of Appeals. And sometime soon, we don't know when, Washington, D.C., the False Claims Act. Now, let me just go back. There's a special office in the Obama White House that has its main task is to try to suppress news about Obama's lack of a birth certificate, his disqualification to be president, and so forth. Is this correct?
That's the word. That's the report from 2 investigators who've been investigating it for months. They were on the Laurie Roth show last week. Judy from the Canadian Free Press, and I don't know his name here. But that's
Hang on, Phil. I just want to try to get those names because I think people will want to follow up. We'll be back in a minute.